All right. We are still seeing some registrations joining. It's 11 o'clock here in California, and I also have Satish, who is our panelist, joining me today in the office.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to the people from the East Coast.
So let's give it maybe 1 more minute, and then I'll get started. And this recording is, this webinar is being recorded, and you should get a recording link after this. And definitely we'll have some Q&A towards the end of it, so you should be able to type your questions. So I'd like to recognize our joint marketing team from LiveObjects and Standav. I think they pulled this webinar, so thanks for the marketing team. And I'm already seeing over 50 participants joining, so I think it's a good time for us to get started. So what we'll be doing today in our webinar is talking about process mining. This is a very broad topic, but today's focus is on code-to-cache CPQ systems. And I have the privilege of having Satish with me. He's a visionary in the space. He has been in really large solutions at Cisco. And most recently, before leading the product management activities for LiveObjects in the code-to-cache space, he was at Aptus. And my background has been mostly focused on implementation and adding more value to customers. And right now, I'm leading the practice at Standav. We are an SI. And we focus a lot on process architecture and process technologies. So with that, the format of our webinar will be to talk about LiveObjects and the capability. We'll also have a demo of the solution. And then Standav will talk about how process mining technology can be used, what are some of the nuances, the value of data quality, and then we'll have around 20 minutes to talk about any questions you might have. So with that, I would like to request Satish to talk about process mining, and also he'll conclude with the demo. Thank you, Satish.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Pratik. So let me start with a high-level overview of what process mining or process discovery is all about. So traditionally, when you are implementing any business application, customers used to discover what is their existing process, and then from there they would go and see what is my targeted to be process, and then implement those business applications, whatever it is. It's been a very complex journey, spending many hours understanding the customizations and the out-of-box process, what they have implemented before, and then what are the gaps in the business process, and how you are going to implement them with the new application. Now, having said that, with the new technologies emerging like AI and machine learning, there's a new area of interest has developed, which is called process mining or process discovery. What exactly it does is it will look at your data and discover your existing process today. Typically, most of the companies today does mine their data with an analytics tool and get some business insights from there, and then it is passed over to the business leaders where they take a call how they want to use those insights. The process discovery would bridge the gap between those two. The process mining or process discovery tools would look at your data, discover your as-is process, and then give an insights what are the roadblocks you have in your process and how you can optimize it. So LiveObjects is one of the first closed-loop self-optimizing business process application that uses AI and machine learning algorithms to tell the business users what is their existing process, what are the typical bottlenecks they are facing in their process, and how they can optimize it. Now, once they optimize it, they can again rediscover their process to see what are the further opportunities of optimizing your business process. So that's where the closed loop self-optimized business process would add value to any business process. But today we would talk with specific to quote to cash, how businesses and users can leverage LiveObjects platform for their existing or new quote to cash implementations, whether it's a upgrade or it's a new implementation or it's a migration from one tool to another tool. How does LiveObjects does this? Typically when you look at, you would have implemented SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, Workday, or even Apttus too, right? Some of these business applications. But your entire business process is not just these business applications. You would also have some of these manual activities. Typically in quote to cash, you would have some of these pricing spreadsheets. That is one of the most popular and favorite tool with users, right? Where you have your pricing in ERP, you extract in an Excel sheet and try to upload in your quote to cash system, especially pricing system, or vice versa. And also every month or every quarter, you would update pricing, introduce new items, new price lists and all. That could be one of the manual activity that is impacting the productivity of your tools, and also it might delay the way you quote and then send book your orders based upon the quotes. And also there could be some PDF codes coming into the system, how you want to upload into your system. Somebody need to look at these PDF codes and enter into your system, or there could be a PDF contract that they need to enter into the system. Right? There could be some emails, customer asking for renewals, or there could be some bots automating some of your activities. So all these manual activities combined with this business application comprise your existing process. Now, LiveObjects not only look at your structured data in your business applications, but it will also look at your unstructured data like spreadsheets, documents, mails, and other documents. Combine these two sources of data and discover your business process. So, what does that mean for the business? The application will show the different variations of your current business process, which is as is, and then identify the bottlenecks. Based upon the identified bottlenecks, the system would then recommend enhancements that can optimize your business process. Now, the business can really choose what are the recommendations they want to implement, because it may not be possible to implement all the recommendations at one go. It could be a resource constraint, it could be a time constraint, or it could be, some of the application process that is limiting, or their business rules that are limiting it. Now, once they choose what are the recommendations that they want to implement, then we have got our, pre-built connectors with SAP, Salesforce, and other applications where we can auto-deploy those enhancements to transform your business process and optimize it. So that is where the three-step process of discover, recommend, and transform work in tandem to really optimize your business process for quote to cash process, right? Typically, the platform has got many other capabilities, but we have chosen to develop 3 to 4 solutions on top of our platform. One is obviously the quote to cash, where you can continuously optimize your business process to maximize your revenue. That is the core message what we want to address with this solution. And finance and control would be how do you mitigate your risk and be compliant with all your financial processes. The optimization-driven automation would be how we can orchestrate the existing bots of a customer while recommending some of these optimizations that drive your business process. Application migration would be if the customer want to migrate from on-prem to cloud like Salesforce or SAP, S/4HANA, and any other cloud or cloud-to-cloud migration too, right? So these are the 4 solutions. But today our interest would be the first one, the quote to cash, how we would use the LiveObjects platform to really leverage optimizing the quote to cash process. Now, if you look at the evolution of this business process automation or business process discovery systems, in early 2000s you have all these business process management tools like TIBCO, Pega, and all, where they would capture and define your business process. Over a period of time, they evolved, and RPA has taken over, where the systems would actually automate your routine human tasks that adds no value to your business. So the systems can automate creating repetitive transactions or uploading some processes and all, data and all, right? And then the evolution of process discovery, where the process mining tools like Celonis, Disco, and all has taken the RPA to the next level, where they would go and discover your process and say what is your business process and how it looks like today and what are the gaps. LiveObjects take this concept of process mining beyond discovering as-is process and also from the structured data. LiveObjects adds the unstructured data to this process mining flavor and discovers your process both from structured and unstructured data, and also recommends and optimizes your business process, thus closing the loop as we've seen before, so that you can always discover your business process, identify the gaps, select the recommendations that you want to implement, and transform the process, and close the loop again to discover the process to see how my transformed process is working, and also see what are the further opportunities for optimization and transformation. So this goes on because you might be implementing new business models, you might be implementing new functionalities, and there could be some patches, there could be some new functionalities that you are developing. So the closed loop self-adapting business process optimization would continue and then optimize your business process to see that you are getting your benefit out of the application what you are implementing. Now, how this is going to play for code to cash? Again, the LiveObjects philosophy of discover, recommend, and transform would still be there. We are applying this methodology of closed loop with discover, recommend, and transform for three major areas of code to cash: the pricing, contract management, and order management. We call it as pricing intelligence, contract intelligence, and order intelligence. So how it is different from typical BI applications where they say is an intelligence of data reporting and all. If I take the pricing intelligence, so the pricing intelligence would look at what is my pricing process? How do I price a particular product or a service? What are my pricing rules? And what are my manual activities like Excel pricing or updating a price list or creating a new price list or synchronizing pricing between your ERP and QTC systems and all, right? And also, how do you price across front office, middle office, and back office? So the process can be discovered across these multiple applications. Let us say your back office is SAP, your middle office is Aptos, and front office is Salesforce. So you create your opportunities in Salesforce, you've got a pricing price list there, and then you've got a pricing and price list in Aptos, and you've got a pricing and price list in SAP. We can discover your process across all these applications and then show how your process spans across these applications. Then how are we going to optimize? So you will actually optimize your SKUs across these three applications, and then say, let us say if I want to create a particular quote, right? But I don't have that SKU available in your quote to cash system, then system can show you what the SKUs that are missing in the system and how you can synchronize. And suppose you are updating a price list through a manual upload. You have got some price list missing, right? Or the SKU missing, but you are trying to update a price, right? So those are some of the common problems in quote to cash pricing updates, where system can automatically detect these issues and alert users saying that, hey, you are trying to update the price in this price list, but item is missing. Do you want to create this item? Or this price list itself is missing. Do you want to create this price list? And if you are updating a pricing on a particular item or a SKU, then system can suggest the impacted quotes or opportunities in pipeline that you might want to refresh your pricing. So these are some of the possibilities what we are articulating, and as a business users, you all can really understand what type of business problems you can solve with the LiveObjects platform. The platform can create update SKUs, price list with all or pre-built connectors to your CRM, CPQ, and ERP applications. Similarly, we have contract intelligence where we are working with many customers where customers get a PDF contract where somebody need to read the PDF contract like a end user and then understand the rules and the contract and everything, obligations, and then they need to go into the system, enter the contract, create an order or a code, whatever the transaction you want to create from that, and then orchestrate in the upstream and downstream systems. So we can actually read the data. The LiveObjects platform can read that unstructured PDF document like a human, where you can train your system based upon the different contract templates what you have. And system can systematically create contracts. It's as good as human, if not better. And create all your contracts, all your orders, and trigger the process from there. There could be multiple things where if you've got multiple renewals at the same time, system can even detect that and saying that, hey, you have got this contract for a renewal. There are, by the way, 3 more renewals for the same customer coming in next 15 days. So you might want to combine all of them to create one contract so that you can give a better discount and also cross-sell and upsell some of these services, right? The system can also track and extract and track your obligations, intelligent obligation management system. So we are not the source of your obligations. Your contract is still the source, but the platform and the technology can detect all the obligations and give you an alert when an obligation is missed or about to be passed off for the deadline, right? So ultimate thing in the contract maturity model is you want to target to have a self-managed contract which can manage by itself using the platform like this, where you are using a self-managed process optimization. Similarly, order management, you have got many order processing rules, your billing and payment processing, where system can read PDF invoices or PDF orders and create those transactions in the system, then trigger the process through the downstream systems. And it can optimize your billing, especially if you have got multiple products and services. How do you consolidate this billing for a customer? Or how do you track duplicate payments or, dunning your customers on time to get the payments? And then also it can forecast your billing at the time of quoting so that you know what you are going to bill your customer, and you can also use those things maybe have to give it to your customer saying that, hey, this is your billing schedule upfront at the time of quoting rather than waiting till the time of billing. So these are some of the functionalities what we think the platform can help. Again, when we were implementing this to some of our customers, they have been using multiple innovative ways to solve their quote-to-cash problems. So these are the 3 main components of our quote-to-cash solution with the discover, recommend, and transform across pricing, contract, and order management, right? So what are the trends in the business? Previously, you used to have a DMAIC where typical business consultants would come and then do some process improvements to support your company strategy. Then they go through interviews. This is very complex and outdated process where it's very people-specific and people-centered process where if there is an attrition, somebody need to start from scratch or need to update the documents, going through all the knowledge base and all, right? And then, ultimately it will impact your revenue and also the customer satisfaction. But the future is all about, how you automate some of this business process management, right? Independent of people, where you can have AI-based or machine learning-based platform that can discover your process, optimize it, which is independent of people, and anybody can go and review what your process is and how you can update the process or optimize the process. So a few business cases would be, what are your gaps in your pricing? Are the orders are all fulfilled or not? What is the status of your quote, right? Identify, contracts that have large cycles because of approvals or many other reasons, right? You can also see what are the reasons for inaccurate purchase orders or sales orders where there could be a pricing mistake, there could be the item itself is wrong on some of these orders, or whatever the reason could be, right? This could be also leading to your revenue loss, which you can prevent if you have plugged all these inefficiencies in your process. And more importantly, expedite your quote to cash process to streamline the customer experience and maximize your revenue. And also, it will also improve your renewal cycles and your overall sales experience, right? So let's jump into the product demo and then look at how LiveObjects system really looks like and what are some of the benefits that users can derive from it. So this is a typical LiveObject dashboard where this is a procure-to-pay data of a business, ABC Inc., or whatever you can imagine. And typically, we ingest this data. There are a few hundreds of thousands of records we have ingested into the system. Based upon this data, the system would discover the process like this. The complex process architecture, what it is showing here, is really a combination of all the process variations in the system today, right? If I go and drill down here, there are different process variations that I can look at. And if you look at the next section here, these are the bottlenecks what the system is looking at. And if I click on this, it will show that this particular purchase order 477 will have a 9-month delay from the date of manufacture PO line to PO line item price change. This could be a one-odd exception, but if this is really a big purchase order, that could impact your customer delivery ultimately. And there's another 4-month delay average between a purchase order requisition to purchase order creation, right? So if you look at, there are many purchase requisitions that are 7 months in pipeline before they are creating these purchase orders. This is definitely a serious concern for me. Why it's really taking so much of time to really create a purchase order from a purchase requisition? There are many other bottlenecks like this that system will identify, right? These are some of the areas where the customer need to go and improve their process to address some of these bottlenecks. And if I look at a simple process, 52% of their process are very straightforward, where I will have create PO, then I'll change the PO price, post PO document, and then pretty straightforward and pretty simple, right? But if I go to another variation 4, where I have much more complex process here, where I have 1 month delay between my purchase requisition date and purchase requisition release. This is a concern to me. Why should I take 1 month from creation of a purchase requisition to purchase requisition release so that I can go and create a purchase order? So that is where the thick arrow with 1 month is showing me. Like that, I can navigate through all the process variations. The first couple of variations may not be a real surprise to the customer, but as we go down, the low percentage of variants could definitely be a surprise to the customer, because they may not be really aware of some of these delays in their process, what they are looking at, and how they could really solve the problem, right? So, and if I go down and look at, this is another area of interest to the customers where we are showing some of these correlations. So the green ones means the things are more correlated to each other. The blue ones means it's not really so much of correlation. So if I look at PO, PR influencing processing time, right? This is a box plot where I can put this in months. So if I'm looking at my PRs, I've got more outliers here. It's almost 6 to 9 months before some of them are getting converted into purchase orders, but POs are pretty much processed in time. That means my purchase requisition process is taking long time to convert into a purchase order before I can get the material from the supplier. This is a concern to me, right? Because typically when I create a purchase requisition, I would expect that these are some of the things I need it immediately. why I would need to wait 6 to 9 months really to get this goods, and that ultimately might delay my customer delivery too, right? And also document category, right? These are different document types that particular customer have, and that is something where it's impacting. Document category F is getting processed pretty quickly, but document category B and K are getting delayed, right? So these are some of the insights that system would give that would give the recommendations to improve. And again, if you look at purchase organization 10 is pretty much delayed on processing some of these purchase requisitions and purchase orders. But if you look at purchase group 20 is doing pretty fast, right? So these are some of the insights system would give. And these are some of the pointers of your process inefficiencies and how you can really optimize your experience in delivering the customer commitments, right? So that is where LiveObjects will do, discover your process from all the data that is ingested and identify the bottlenecks to show what are your process inefficiencies, and also give you these correlations to see where you can really influence your process. And if you are really curious about the statistics and all, we have got a summary statistics for each of these things. You can go and see some of the statistical data, but this for advanced users, but most of the business users won't even go here. They would really look at some of these correlations and the relationships what we are talking about here, right? And then how I can improve some of these bottlenecks what we have, right? So this is one part of it. This is all the structured data. Structured data, I've got some of this data already there in the system, and then where I can go and mine the process and then get all these correlations and all. But what should I do for an unstructured data? Let us say I'm getting a PDF document. So what should I do? So for that, we actually take the PDF documents and ingest in the system. And once we ingest in the system, then we will go and make system learn or train the system with all this. Let us say, we have got some of these purchase orders here. These are the PDFs. Then these are purchase orders that we have ingested in the system, and we have told the system, hey, this part is the PO date, right? So the system will understand, okay, this is my purchase order date. And if you look at, if I point here, it will show me where the date is. There could be a lot of other numbers and all. It won't show. The customer name, right? The contact, the PO number, contact email, SKU description, all these things. Precisely, it will learn all the components, and as you have seen, you can label the new fields with a new attribute, and system would understand, okay, I'm learning something new. All these black ones are the labels what we have trained, and the green ones is what system is predicting. We would train a couple of documents like this to the system, right? And then system would learn, okay, saying that, okay, this is my PO format, PO template, very similar to you can do even for contracts. This is my contract template. These are different labels in my contract. The system will learn all this stuff. And then once it understands this stuff, this PO could be your incoming, sales order of your customer, right? Then later on, if I ingest a new document into the system, all the green ones are the system what it has predicted, right? So it will predict accurately with all the things what you have trained it. So the accuracy of the system is as good as your training. So the way you train your system, it will perform as equal to as human, right? As a human reading a purchase order and inputting in the system, it will exactly read your PDF document. It could be a purchase order, it could be a sales order, or it could be even a contract. It will read, or even your invoice, and create these transactions in the system. That's how we mine or discover the process from both structured and unstructured data, or a combination of both. That is a unique proposition of value what LiveObjects is bringing onto the table for businesses, because this is something where it's a very powerful way of discovering your process. Most of the tools could do your unstructured data, reading OCR type of things, or structured data, looking at your data and mining some of these stuff. But if you combine these both, that is a real powerful proposition, because no business process is completely structured or completely unstructured. It's a combination of both, right? That's a very high level demo of LiveObjects. We'll be happy to share more after the webinar if you have any questions or more details on the tool. Now we'll pass it over to Pratik for next slides. Pratik, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Satish. That was really informative. And I know we have seen demos where people saw screenshots, but I'm glad that you could actually show the system, because there's a lot of proof in the pudding. And what I want to do next is basically talk about some of the implementation stories that we have seen. So we've successfully done few engagements working with LiveObjects, mostly with our existing code-to-cash clients, where we have uncovered bottlenecks, where we have come up with some new efficiencies. So in the next 10-15 minutes, I want to share that. And then what I want to do is in the next remaining part of the webinar, talk a lot about or answer questions, because I see a lot of questions already being there. So we don't want to miss that opportunity. So we'll come to that in the next 15 minutes once I conclude my portion of what I called the implementation piece of it, right? So obviously, before process mining technology existed, the information was stored in event logs, right? So all the things that Satish showed you are typically part of event logs that are there in transaction system, but it was rarely used to analyze the underlying processes. Now, process mining is used extensively to gain control of that, and then essentially what we saw is you can eliminate some of those hypotheses and understand where you can unlock opportunities for growth, right? So you have structured data coming from ERP systems, CRM systems. So the key thing is to understand where your event data is and ensure that those are addressed. And then we can talk about how we go about doing implementation, right? So process mining can be there in a lot of systems that are mostly ERP based and CPQ based, but what we have seen is a typical master data. If you want to take let's say you like what you saw and you want to come up with an initiative, I would say the key master data for a typical code-to-cash kind of a scenario is your customer master, product master, order master, and pricing master. So the key thing is you want to ensure that your customer hierarchy is clean. When you talk about product master, you really want to make sure you have the right product bundle structure. And then the order master typically should have the right fields. And then pricing is what we were talking about, how you can have multiple spreadsheets, but you really need to make sure that the product and the pricing work together, right? So I would say 80% of the scenarios from a structured data perspective, these are the different data sources that are really critical, that are required for any sort of process mining of code-to-cash systems. And then we also have elements of customer sales and other information coming in. Now, what we have seen is 80% of the implementation of such a process mining solution is data, 20% is the actual process mining, right? So the data quality piece is really critical, because if you don't have the right data quality, both structured and unstructured, you will essentially not have the right insights. So understanding the data quality, ensuring that you have the right level of insights for that, determining and identifying those critical data quality is really important. And then we have some KPIs that, and again, this data quality is not really specific to process mining. Anytime you want to take up any large initiative, you have to look at data in terms of 5 dimensions, the way I call it: the completeness of data, uniqueness, accuracy, consistency, and the timeliness. So these are some of the things that we also follow based on the master data that I showed you. And this is a framework that we have built out. So the typical time that we have seen customers get value from such exercises a few months. So the way it works is we get into your system, we get your event data, we take all your unstructured data, come up with the right attributes. So these are some predetermined attributes that we already know that are going to really impact the value, and then we kind of start the process mining example. So we had a very interesting use case at a recent client of ours where we were trying to figure out the code approval cycle bottlenecks, and we figured out the approval cycle every time was sent to finance and the deal size was over $100,000, there was a typical delay that was 3 times the normal one, right? And we figured out that even if you have approval set up, there was no reason for that company to have such a bottleneck, right? And it was some sort of a business rule that had been inherited because of some legacy system that was there in the system. And we essentially were able to uncover such a rule and then essentially show that as a bottleneck and then derive value, right? So approvals are one of the key areas that we have seen code to cash customers take a lot of value. Now, obviously, contract management and what Satish was showing the demo, how you can get your unstructured data. Let's say you have a certain contract renewal date present, and you might have incorrect contract renewal date in your quote. You will typically spend a lot of manual activities, or there'll be some back and forth within the customer. So all those things could be eliminated if you were looking at the right time. So these are some of the real world cases that I have seen recently where we have successfully implemented a process mining exercise and uncovered some bottlenecks for our clients. This is a simple assessment of the master data I was talking about. So anytime we would take an initiative, we would rate your data readiness. So we would take your customer master and the attributes I mentioned around completeness, uniqueness, accuracy, and consistency. We will do that. And same thing with the product and pricing master. I would say 80% of this, if it is over 8 and above, you will start getting value. Now, if we see a score of less than 5, we will obviously say that why don't you take a separate exercise before process mining to clean up your data hierarchy, right? So maybe in case of a customer master, you have the wrong customer hierarchy created. So those things are something we always recommend to take up before such exercise, because end of the day, we really want the data to give us the actionable insights versus information that has been shared or passed on. So this is a sample assessment report that Standav will be running prior to any assessment before it is inputted into a system like LiveObjects. And then obviously, process mining doesn't simply pull data together. It's also a way to organize a sequence, and it enriches rich dynamic visual representation of your sequence, right? So this is a typical sequence or your journey where you can take CPQ data from, let's say, a transaction system like SAP, do the assessment that I showed you, come up with the right scores, look at the event logs, do the right profiling, and then do the integration with a system like LiveObjects to ensure that you get the right value. So this is something we want to showcase in terms of a framework that we have done. And then in conclusion, right, so I know there are a lot of questions, so we'll get there, but in conclusion, in our experience, we see, as I was mentioning, 2 main hurdles for implementation. This is typically relevant for enterprise companies: people and data. So still large groups of consultants, auditors, quality managers, process owners are unaware of capabilities of process mining, right? So the moment you start giving transparency to such a process, you will actually uncover mismanagement, inefficiencies, right? So you want to make sure that the people that are also involved, along with the data, are aware that this is an exercise to uncover the underlying bottlenecks, and they should not feel that we are trying to uncover their inefficiencies, right? So we have seen that come across often. So that's something, a lessons learned for us, because not everybody is happy to see those problems, right? And obviously data quality and access to the data is another major issue. So typically 80% of the effort we see is spent on locating, selecting, and extracting and transforming the data. The time needed to apply the process mining is typically much shorter, maybe 20 to 30%. But if you have the right data and you have the right data quality that I mentioned, and you have the master data systems that I was mentioning, basically a customer order transaction in case of CPQ systems, you will start getting value. So we definitely discourage customers to take on an initiative like this without having the right data quality and the right data elements identified. So with that, what I want to do is now focus on some questions. So we know there are a lot of questions that have come up, and between me and Satish, we'll try and answer those. So why don't we start with our first question. So one of the questions we have is, does LiveObjects parse the spreadsheet for logic, and or is it done manually by an analyst? Maybe I'll let Satish take that up. That do you use LiveObjects to parse the spreadsheet? Because I'm sure spreadsheets is one of the inputs, or do you expect some kind of an analyst or consultant to do that?
I think that's a good question. One of the key areas of LiveObjects is unstructured data processing. We definitely mine all the macros, rules, and other formulas what you create in Excel without any manual intervention. So we parse the data and understand it and discover your process along with other structured data. Yeah.
Okay.
And that is applicable, for PDFs and all what we have demoed. The similar way we can also do for Excel, including formulas and macros.
I just see a couple of new participants join in. So we are actually done with our presentation. So right now we're in Q&A. So anyone who has any questions, please go and type in your Q&A box, and either me or Satish will be happy to answer. So we have another question coming up. Is process mining a replacement for a business intelligence solution, or is it complementary so that a business might want to have both?
Yes. So they are definitely, I don't say complementary. They are addressing two different areas of your business requirements. Business intelligence is mostly a reporting tool where you have got a large BI universe where you actually take the reports and configure your cubes, and then take the slice and dice the cube and get your insights for reporting your business data. Process mining is, in contrast, will optimize your business process. So in a way that it will improve your business process that can generate more meaningful data, so that the business intelligence reports what you are creating would add more value to your business. In fact, if you have got an optimized process, the insights what you are getting from your BI reports would be more useful for your business. In that way, business process optimization with the process mining will improve your BI tool efficiency.
That's great. That's helpful, Satish. We see a lot of questions coming up. Yeah, this is a long question, so let me read it slowly. Our company has quote cycles that are sometimes very long, to the point where 80% risk is losing the customer. Can you tell me if process mining can be leveraged, and what can it potentially reveal, especially when we have such a long sales cycle?
So this is an interesting question, because we have a similar customer with the same problem. What we have observed is, when there is a long sales cycle, most of the times the time is consumed in actually understanding the structure of the deal, what sort of approvals they need, and how quickly they can get a quote to a customer. So LiveObjects help this particular customer identify all the process variations, and then showed them where they are really stuck up with some of these large deals. If the deal is pretty large and the customer is requesting a steep discount, then they need to go through multiple levels of approvals, and then go reconfigure your quote and restructure your pricing to really get the numbers what customer want. So we have shown them where there is a duplicate effort of multiple approvals, which may not be required in this case, right? And also, doing the right pricing also means that you have got updated price list with all the items accurately reflecting your price. Some of these customers don't have the right prices updated because, you have not updated your price list in last 3 weeks, and then you have got a different pricing already there in the source system, right? These are some of the issues what we have found. And also, more importantly, there are some human issues, right? So they wouldn't have acted on this, quote for almost 3 weeks because, they have got some other priority quotes, or this quote is such a long and complex, they need to go through this quote and understand and then go back to approach and all. So there are a variety of things that contribute, but we have discovered most of these bottlenecks and gave these insights to the business, where they have definitely selected few of the key pain points, and we could be able to reduce their typical quoting cycle time by 30%.
That's very interesting, Satish. I think we have an interesting question, from somebody in the manufacturing vertical. So what they're saying is, so for a manufacturing vertical industry, we have a lot of issues right now with rebates. And whenever we use rebates in a quote-to-cash system, it's very manual. How will process mining help me show gaps in the rebate management piece? Maybe Satish, if you have any insights on how rebates and quote-to-cash can work together. I think that's very common even in healthcare. Promotions are common in a lot of other retail industry. Yeah.
So this will be a very interesting use case for LiveObjects. The reason being, most of these businesses today struggle how to process these rebates at the time of quoting. With the new revenue standards coming up, you need to really have a provision made in the quote for the rebates so that you won't recognize revenue for the rebate amount and then reverse. So how are you going to do this? Based upon your past, customer orders or consumption of your products, you would know in which rebate tier this customer would fall into. And system can read the data again and suggest what would be the most probable tier of rebate this customer might consume, and then feed the data to the quote so that the quote can show what could be the possible thing, what is your actual price, net price, and then rebate amount, and then actual revenue that you need to recognize. Right? So in that way, there would be still, some adjustments the customers need to make at the end of the day, but in 90% of the cases, you would actually able to predict what could be the revenue less rebate on the quote itself.
That's really helpful, Satish. There's an interesting question. So the Standav team talked about the amount of data and the amount of data expertise needed to understand the results. What is, in your experience, Satish, the level of effort, especially if the customer doesn't have the right data sources identified, or if the data quality there is not good? Before they take on process mining, what do you recommend they should do? And what is the typical time and effort that for enterprise company they should plan or keep aside before they take up initiative around LiveObjects?
So for LiveObjects to implement, it's anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. We don't take few months to really implement the solution for a customer. But data quality is again very subjective from customer to customer. It all depends upon how complex your data is, how bad your data is looking at. So it's actually a customer to customer use case where they need to look at and then see, hey, I need to first clean up my data and then see how I can really discover my process. Again, if your data is bad, it's bad, but this is another opportunity to look at why you are having a bad data in your system and how the data quality can be improved even with LiveObjects. Yeah.
That's really helpful. So we have just 10 minutes left. Looks like we've answered most of the questions. Let me just go through it. But while we are waiting for new questions, Satish, maybe if you want to highlight, because process mining as a technology is actually not very new, and process mining as a activity has always been there, even in the 80s and 90s. What is the AI ML piece that LiveObjects is doing that makes it really unique? If you can shed a little light on that, I think that will help the participants to get a little more understanding of how AI ML plays into what we saw today in the demo. Yeah.
So typically, as you said, most of this process mining was an academic interest for many years now. The tools like Disco were used in academic interest for a pretty long time, where it will systematically discover or mine your process based upon the process logs with accurate timestamps and all, right? But because the business processes are becoming so complex, and it's taking a lot of time and effort to really discover your process and identify the gaps, the demand to have intelligent business process discovery is coming up in last few years, right? That's where most of these technologies, emerging technologies like AI and ML are used in business process discovery. Now, having said that, most of the tools developed in the market would look at only the structured data. So if you have got an applications like SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, take the data, look at your process logs and every other data point you can have, and then try to discover your process. But there's a big problem, as we discussed. Your business process is not just structured data, it's a combination of structured and unstructured data. So if I have a combination of structured and unstructured data, how are we going to really discover the business process? That is where the unique value of LiveObjects, where we have got our proprietary AI algorithms that can understand your unstructured data in combination with the structured data and show you your actual process and its variations to identify the bottlenecks and how you can optimize. So that is where the customers are looking at, hey, I have these Excel sheets, I've got this customer cases, I've got these Word documents, PDF documents, charts, portals and all. We need to mine the data from all these sources and then discover the process. So that is what it's making more complex and more challenging for a business analysts or a team of people to really discover the process. That's where your AI and ML technologies will help you to really discover your process.
That's great. I think we are almost at the end of the webinar. So a couple of comments. So Gartner has actually published a very interesting article on process mining, and Gartner recommends process mining to be done as a way to do your business transformation exercises. So and they are forecasting this industry to grow to almost 5x the current size by 2025. So it's a very interesting perspective that we had the LiveObjects team to tell us today. We as a company also are very bullish about this technology. We are working with some of our clients that have implemented code-to-cash CPQ implementations and are either struggling to get value or are not clear what was implemented. So not only does give you a as-is understanding of your current processes, but also helps you uncover bottlenecks. So with that, I want to thank all our panelists and participants who joined us. And we are really lucky to have got so many interesting questions. So we will be sharing all the recordings after this. You will also get some emails to give us some feedback. And as usual, if you have any other questions, comments, please reach out to us. LiveObjects and Standav have partnered to bring this technology to our clients. We are doing free assessments, and we are also very interested to help with pilot customers. So even if you have other initiatives going on, if you can give Standav and LiveObjects access to your data, we will be happy to take a piece of a process, come up with a recommendation, and that might lead to bigger initiatives. So look forward to the next steps, and thanks everyone for joining. With that, I'm going to conclude the webinar and look forward in seeing most of you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.